What if I told you that the pain of rejection was not a punishment, but a redirection? That every door slammed in your face was not a sign of defeat, but divine recalibration. We live in a world obsessed with acceptance, likes, follows, invitations, validation. And when we don't get it, we begin to believe something's wrong with us. But let me tell you something, God is not absent in rejection. He is active in it. There's a pattern in how the divine works. It begins not in applause, but in obscurity, not in celebration, but in silence, not in popularity, but in purposeful pruning. That's how God shapes leaders, saints, and revolutionaries, not in comfort, but in the crushing. There are moments in life when everything goes quiet, when your phone stops ringing, when opportunities that once seemed within reach suddenly disappear, when your work goes unnoticed, your efforts unrewarded, your voice unheard. It feels like you've been tucked away in the back of the room while the world moves forward without you. And the first instinct is to believe something has gone wrong. You start to wonder if you missed your chance, if you're being punished, if you're not worthy of being seen. But what if this obscurity, this silence, wasn't rejection at all? What if it was divine preparation? You see, the world loves spotlights. It craves the stage, the likes, the recognition. But God works differently. He doesn't begin in the spotlight. He starts in the shadows, because in the shadows, there's space to grow roots. Without an audience, you develop authenticity. Without applause, you discover identity. That hidden season you're in, it's not a delay, it's development. God hides what he wants to strengthen. He conceals what he's constructing. Think of the bamboo plant. For the first several years after it's planted, nothing seems to happen. Just a small sprout sits on the surface. But underneath the soil, a massive root system is forming. It's deepening, widening, stabilizing. And when it's ready, when its foundation can support the height, it shoots up feet in just weeks. But that explosive growth was only possible because of the hidden years. That's how your life works too. You want the breakthrough, the platform, the moment. But God wants to give you depth, resilience, and capacity first. Maybe you feel like your dreams are dormant, like you've been passed by. But what if you're not being passed by? You're being positioned. If you've been working in silence, praying in silence, building in silence, and no one seems to notice, remember this, as you are not invisible, you're being incubated. The hidden place is not the forgotten place. It's the furnace where greatness is formed. Think about a sculptor. They don't build masterpieces on public display. They go into a workshop. They chip away in silence. They polish in solitude. And only when the piece is finished does it emerge. That's you. God is chiseling away pride, fear, impatience, comparison. He's shaping your character so your future doesn't collapse under pressure. If he let you rise too soon, your success would suffocate you. So instead, he hides you until you're strong enough to stand. Let's look at a daily life example. Imagine a young woman who dreams of becoming a published author. She pours her heart into writing for years, manuscript after manuscript, rejection after rejection. She watches others with less experience get book deals, get attention, get praise, and yet she remains unknown. But in that unknown season, she's refining her voice. She's learning discipline. She's developing endurance. Years later, when her work finally reaches the world, it's not just good, it's timeless. Why? Because the quiet years weren't wasted. They were the very soil that nurtured her brilliance. Or picture a man working in a small business. Every day he gives his best, shows up early, stays late, mentors others, but no one seems to notice. He doesn't get the promotion. He's not on anyone's radar. But during that time, he's learning skills others are ignoring. He's absorbing principles. He's growing his emotional intelligence. And one day, when a crisis hits, he's the only one equipped to lead. People are shocked at his excellence, but it didn't come out of nowhere. It came from years of being faithful when no one was watching. That's the truth. Faithfulness in obscurity is what sets you apart when the moment finally arrives. Anyone can perform under lights, but only the deeply formed can stand under pressure. That's why God delays visibility, because if you don't learn to be steady in silence, you'll collapse in success. So if you're in a season right now where it feels like nothing is happening, hear this, something is happening in you. You're not being left behind. You're being leveled up in a way the world can't see. Don't despise this quiet season. This is the gym for your spirit, the workshop for your purpose, the greenhouse for your calling. While others are rushing to be seen, you're being shaped to endure. While others are chasing influence, you're being given integrity. Every hour you invest now, every quiet moment of obedience, every late night effort that no one claps for, it's building something weighty, something that will last. The platform you want will come, but only if the foundation is deep enough. And the depth is formed in obscurity, not applause. You wake up some mornings wondering why life feels so fragmented, like you're walking through a fog trying to assemble 1,000 tiny, scattered pieces of your journey. Disappointments here, confusing detours there, people who left, plans that fell apart, prayers that seem unanswered. And in those moments, it's easy to feel lost, like nothing makes sense. But the reason it doesn't make sense isn't because it's wrong. It's because your view is too small. You're looking at a pixel while God sees the full picture. Think about a massive mural, so big that standing an inch away, all you can see is one blotch of color. It doesn't look like anything. It seems chaotic, out of place, maybe even ugly. But take 10 steps back and suddenly that blotch becomes a sunset, a shadow, a vital stroke of a breathtaking masterpiece. That's how your life is right now. You're staring at one painful moment, one season of rejection, one unanswered prayer, and it feels random, meaningless. But it's not. It's a carefully chosen piece of something glorious being painted by the divine. When you're holding just one pixel, it's hard to believe there's beauty in it. Losing a job doesn't feel like purpose. A breakup doesn't feel like divine strategy. A diagnosis doesn't feel like destiny. But what you see as an isolated moment, God sees as a precise part of his orchestration. He sees the whole story, the backstory, the battles you haven't fought yet, the blessings that are coming. He knows which door needs to close to push you toward the one that's meant for you. He knows which relationships need to end so your heart can be available for who he truly designed to walk with you. Imagine you're assembling a jigsaw puzzle. The pieces are all over the table. Some are oddly shaped. Some seem like they don't fit anywhere. You could stare at a single piece for hours and still not see its purpose. But once you step back and start connecting the edges, you begin to realize, hey, every piece, no matter how awkward or unnecessary it looked, had a reason. That confusing job, it taught you a skill you'd need in your next opportunity. That closed door, it protected you from something that would have destroyed your peace. That delay, it aligned you with a timing that only God could orchestrate. Let's bring it closer to daily life. Picture a young man pursuing a dream of becoming an architect. He studies hard, applies for internships, puts in the effort, but gets rejection after rejection. He ends up working at a small local furniture store just to pay the bills. It feels like a detour, like failure, like he missed his shot. But during that time, he learns the foundations of design, human behavior, and how to listen to clients. Years later, when he finally enters the architecture world, he doesn't just design buildings, he designs experiences that people love. He becomes known for his ability to connect functionality with emotion. But that gift didn't come from the classroom. It came from the job he thought was beneath him. That pixel he despised became the part of the picture that made him different. Or think of a mother raising children alone, wondering why her life feels like a constant sacrifice. Every day is filled with unseen labor, unthanked effort, and exhaustion. She might feel like her dreams are fading, but what she can't see is the strength she's developing, the emotional intelligence she's cultivating, the depth of patience, empathy, and wisdom being forged in the fire of her current life. One day, those children grow up to carry her legacy. One becomes a counselor, another an educator, and they impact hundreds of lives. And the seed of their character was planted in the hidden, thankless days when their mother was doing what seemed ordinary. That pixel held the most powerful colors of all. This is the problem with our limited vision. We assume that what hurts us is harming us, that what delays us is denying us, that what we can't understand must be wrong. But faith says, even if I don't see the whole picture, I trust the artist. Faith says, even if I don't understand the route, I trust the driver, because every setback, every letdown, every twist you didn't see coming, it's all part of something intricate and intentional, not random, not wasted, not a mistake. And when you look back on it someday, when more of the picture has been revealed, you'll see how those disconnected moments were actually the ones that gave your story its depth, its emotion, its wisdom, and its soul. The heartbreak that broke you actually built your compassion. The betrayal that crushed you made room for authenticity. The failure that embarrassed you gave birth to your reinvention. You only saw the pixel. God was shaping the picture. There is a strange kind of discomfort that sits deep in your soul when you're trying to belong somewhere you were never designed to be. You keep showing up, doing your best, adjusting your tone, suppressing your light, all in the name of fitting in. And yet, no matter how hard you try, it always feels like you're the extra piece in a puzzle that just doesn't match. Conversations drain you. Your contributions go unnoticed. Your values feel like they're being compromised just to stay in the room. That is not a sign of failure. That is a holy discomfort. It's heaven's alarm going off inside your spirit saying, this is not your place. You're not supposed to shrink to stay here. You are not meant to fit where you don't belong. And every time you try, you pay for it. In energy, in peace, in authenticity. Fitting in often requires us to disconnect from ourselves, to pretend, to wear masks, to laugh at jokes that aren't funny, to agree with things that grieve our soul. That's not belonging, that's surviving. And God didn't create you to survive environments that crush your essence. He created you to thrive in spaces that recognize, celebrate, and draw out your divine uniqueness. You've got to stop thinking rejection is always a wound. Sometimes it's a rescue. When someone walks away, when the group doesn't invite you, when you're left out of the opportunity you were desperate to be part of. That pain you feel isn't always loss. Sometimes it's liberation. God is not punishing you by removing you from those circles. He's pulling you out before you shape yourself into someone he never intended you to be. When you don't fit, it's often because you were made for something entirely different, something higher, something sacred. Let's say you're in a workplace where gossip is the culture, shortcuts are celebrated, and people climb the ladder by pushing others down. You're trying to keep your head up. You do the right thing. You work hard, but something feels off. You never quite click with the team. You're overlooked. And that whisper inside you says, maybe I'm just not good enough. No. Maybe your character is too strong to compromise. Maybe your spirit is too aligned to settle. Maybe you're not fitting because you were never meant to operate in that kind of system. God might be using your discomfort as a compass. Or picture this, a young woman constantly tries to keep up with her friend group. Every weekend it's parties, empty conversations, superficial values. She laughs, she posts, she joins in, but inside she feels invisible, like she's playing a role in someone else's story. Slowly, her joy fades, her creativity dies. And one day, after being left out of another gathering, she breaks down thinking, why don't they see me? But what if that moment of exclusion is the sacred doorway to discovery? What if, in being left out, she's finally free to find the places and people who don't just see her, but value her? You can't flourish in soil that wasn't meant for your roots. A cactus in a rainforest will drown. A palm tree in the Arctic will freeze. It doesn't mean the cactus is broken or the palm tree is flawed. It means the environment is wrong. You've got to stop blaming yourself for not thriving in places that were never meant for your calling. Misalignment is not a flaw, it's a revelation. It's God showing you that your destiny requires different conditions. There are friendships, careers, relationships, platforms, even entire seasons of your life that serve their purpose, but are no longer your place. And when you stay longer than you should trying to force your fit, you delay the divine appointments that are waiting for you elsewhere. Because every time you say yes to something that isn't you, you say no to the opportunities that are. You weren't born to be a copy of someone else. You weren't designed to blend in with environments that silence your convictions. You're not supposed to dim your light so others feel comfortable. If you feel like you don't belong, it may be because your spirit is being summoned to spaces where your soul can finally stretch out and breathe. Look around at the people who truly inspire you, the innovators, the leaders, the change makers. They didn't rise by fitting in. They stood out. They were misunderstood. They were too different, too bold, too much for the circles they started in. But they stopped trying to squeeze into molds that couldn't hold them. And once they accepted the misfit feeling as fuel, not failure, they stepped into arenas that celebrated what others tried to suppress. God will never call you to lose yourself in order to be loved. If it costs you your identity, your peace, your voice, it's too expensive. He places you where purpose can flourish, where growth feels like breathing, not bleeding, where you don't have to perform, you just have to be. The friction you're feeling now might just be the force pushing you toward your rightful space, where who you are is not just tolerated, but necessary. Solitude is not loneliness, it's sacred space. But most people confuse the two. They think that being alone is the same as being abandoned. That silence means insignificance. That if no one is calling, no one is caring. But that's not how God works. God doesn't always speak in the noise of life. He speaks in the stillness. In fact, some of the most powerful revelations you'll ever receive will not come from a crowd, not from a stage, not from someone else's voice, but from your own soul echoing in solitude, where heaven finally has your full attention. In a world that is constantly shouting notifications, schedules, opinions, endless scrolling, solitude is a radical act of rebellion. It is the space where distractions die and clarity is born. It is the moment where you stop performing and start becoming. The world teaches you to fear being alone, but God teaches you to listen in it, because what you discover in solitude cannot be taught in a crowded room. There is an intimacy in being alone with God that rewrites your understanding of worth, direction, and peace. People often pray for answers, but never make room for silence. They want clarity, but don't want to disconnect. They want purpose, but fear the isolation that comes with introspection. But it's in solitude where your identity gets untangled from all the noise. In that space where there's no one to impress, no one to compare yourself to, no likes, no filters, just you, your soul, and the truth. That's where the real transformation begins. Take this daily example. Imagine someone who's just gone through a breakup. The silence is deafening. No more good morning text. No more, how was your day? Messages, just space. Quiet, painful, empty space. But what if that silence wasn't punishment? What if it was sacred? What if in that void, they finally heard themselves again? What if they began to read, to write, to heal, to rediscover passions long buried? What if the solitude that felt like exile was actually the doorway to renewal? Or think of a man laid off from a job he gave his all to. Day after day, the routine that gave him identity is gone. The coworkers, the meetings, the deadlines, replaced by stillness. At first, the solitude is terrifying. He questions his worth. But slowly, as the noise dies down, he begins to reflect. Ideas bubble up. A dream long ignored comes back to life. He realizes he'd been surviving, not living, and what felt like failure becomes the foundation of something far more fulfilling. That sacred space gave him back to himself. Solitude is where you find out who you are when no one's watching. It's where you remember that your worth isn't based on productivity or popularity or proximity to others. It's based on something eternal, something unshakable. God does not need a crowd to anoint you. He does not require a spotlight to prepare you. Sometimes he puts you in a room alone, not because you're forgotten, but because you're chosen, because something is being formed in you that the noise of the world would only interfere with. You were never meant to live addicted to approval. And solitude breaks that addiction. It detoxes your soul from needing to be validated in order to feel valuable. When you learn to be at peace alone, you become powerful in every environment. You stop shrinking for attention. You stop chasing people who were never meant to walk with you. You stop begging for crumbs when you were always worthy of a feast. There are moments when solitude feels like a wilderness, like everything has been stripped away, like no one sees you, no one understands, and no one cares. But in the wilderness, something miraculous happens. You stop running from yourself. You face your fears. You wrestle your doubts. You hear God in ways that the noise never allowed. The wilderness becomes your workshop. The silence becomes your symphony. The solitude becomes your sanctuary. Even in Scripture, the pattern is clear. Before elevation comes isolation. Before miracles comes silence. Before movement comes stillness. That sacred space you're in right now, where it feels like you've been put on pause, it's not a delay, it's a deepening, a place where your spirit is being fortified, your mind renewed, your heart healed. Imagine an artist standing in a studio alone before a blank canvas, no distractions, no outside opinions, just creativity and courage colliding in silence. That's what God does in solitude. He takes the blank spaces of your life and begins to paint with colors you never even knew existed. He reveals not just who you are, but who you're becoming. You don't need an audience to grow. You don't need applause to evolve. You need stillness. You need sacred space. You need to learn how to sit in your own presence without judgment, without fear. Because when you do, you unlock a strength that isn't built on trends or temporary validation. It's built on truth, truth that can only be heard when the world goes quiet and your soul leans in. Every no you've ever received felt like a dagger to your hopes. It made you question yourself. You doubted your timing, your talent, your worth. You rewound the situation 100 times in your head, wondering what you could have said differently, done better, fixed sooner. Because when someone says no to your dream, your effort, your heart, it feels personal. It feels final. But here's what no one tells you in that painful moment. Every earthly no is often heaven's way of clearing the runway for something greater. What you thought was rejection was divine redirection. What you thought was a closed door was God whispering, not here, not yet, I've got something better. You see, we're conditioned to treat no as a failure. From childhood, we're taught that getting what we want means success and being denied means defeat. But God does not operate within that limited mindset. He sees further. He knows more. He isn't concerned with your comfort. He's committed to your calling. And sometimes his greatest mercy is the no. You didn't understand at the time. Think about the job you didn't get. You prayed for it. You prepped for it. You told everyone you just half knew this was it. And then came the email, we regret to inform you. And in that moment, you questioned everything. But months later, you found out the company went under, or a toxic culture was exposed, or a scandal erupted. Suddenly, the no made sense. That no wasn't a punishment, it was protection. That rejection wasn't the end of your career. It was the birth of your calling. Or remember that relationship you begged to work out. You saw a future with that person. You invested time, energy, love. You pictured them in every corner of your future. But one day they left. Or maybe you had to walk away, even though it tore you apart. And for months, even years, you held the pain of that no like a weight on your chest. But then one day, you meet someone who sees you for who you really are. They speak to your soul. They honor your growth. And you realize that the love you once cried over would have caged you. That no was not rejection. It was release. We treat yes as the gold standard. But in God's economy, Ace, I know, is often the gateway to glory. Because every time the world says, no, heaven is making room. Room for alignment, room for truth, room for something that won't collapse under pressure, something that matches your soul, your season, your future. You weren't denied because you weren't good enough. You were denied because you were too valuable to be placed in a space that couldn't sustain your destiny. Take a daily life example. A student dreams of getting into a specific university. It's all they've worked toward. Their identity is wrapped in that acceptance letter, but the letter never comes. Instead, they get a spot at a different school, one they never considered. And at first, it feels like defeat. But years later, they look back and see how that detour became their turning point. They met mentors who shaped them, friends who walked with them through hardship, professors who ignited passions they never knew existed. That original no didn't take them off course. It just set their course. Or someone loses a bid on their dream home. They were ready to move in, emotionally attached. But something falls through. Another buyer wins. They feel devastated. But a few months later, a better home, closer to family, more affordable, more aligned, becomes available. And suddenly, that original no was a divine strategy they couldn't see at the time. The truth is, when God says no, he's not withholding. He's refining. He's shaping your story with intentionality. Because the right yes at the wrong time becomes a burden. A door that opens too early can crush what it was supposed to carry. God's timing is not delayed. It's designed. You're not behind. You're being aligned. And here's what's wild. Many of the most transformative yeses in your life will come disguised as disappointments. You'll cry over what you lost until you realize it was never meant for your future. You'll grieve what walked away, only to understand it was never designed to go where you're going. You'll fight to keep doors open that were meant to close, doors that were keeping you from becoming who you were truly created to be. Every no on earth clears space. Every rejection empties your hands so you can receive what's truly meant for you. Every closed door eliminates distraction, saving your energy for the right opportunity. Because you cannot walk through every door. You cannot carry everything. And if God let you say yes to every offer, every person, every path, you drown in a life too heavy to hold. There is nothing more powerful than someone who has learned to trust the no. Who doesn't panic when a door shuts? Who doesn't spiral when plans change? Who doesn't beg for what left? Because that person knows our God never wastes a no. He's not in the business of crushing dreams. He's in the business of realigning them so that when the yes comes, you are ready, steady, and strong enough to carry it. So here you are, standing in the middle of unanswered prayers, closed doors, ignored texts, and missed opportunities. You've tried to figure it all out. You've asked yourself 100 times why things didn't go the way you planned. But maybe the greater miracle is not in the doors that opened. Maybe it's in the ones that didn't. Because sometimes protection comes disguised as pain. Sometimes God's greatest blessings are hidden inside the very things we tried to run from. And right now, in this very moment, you are not being positioned. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. You are not lost. You are being filleted. You must stop measuring your life by who accepts you, who promotes you, or who sees you. You must stop thinking that rejection means you are not good enough. Because the truth is, you're not just good enough, you're chosen. And chosen people go through chosen pain. Chosen people get no, not because they lack value, but because their value is too high for every door to be worthy of them. You are not meant to fit into places that shrink your soul. You are not meant to force your way through doors that will not honor your calling. If it didn't open, if it didn't stay, if it didn't choose you, it's not because you're broken. It's because you were built for more. Let them laugh. Let them walk away. Let them scroll past. Let them overlook you. Because while they're busy measuring your worth by temporary trends, God is building your foundation with eternal plans. You are not waiting to be discovered. You are being developed. You are not stuck. You are being shaped. The silence is not your failure. It's your setup. The delay is not your denial. It's your training ground. Remember this, eagles don't fly in flocks. They soar alone. Diamonds aren't found on the surface. They're pulled from the pressure of the deep. Gold is refined through fire. And you are being prepared in the very spaces that feel most painful. What's meant for you won't require you to compromise your values, shrink your identity, or beg for attention. It will fit because you were formed for it. When the right door opens, you won't have to fight to be seen. You'll be recognized. Your setback is a setup for your comeback. That's not just a cliché, it's a divine pattern. Rejection is redirection. Delay is not denial. Sometimes you must lose the lesser to receive the greater. These are not just phrases. They are of truths that echo through the lives of every person who ever broke through to something bigger. The ones who rise are the ones who refuse to be broken by the no. They are refined by it. So lift your head, straighten your back, wipe those tears, not because the pain wasn't real, but because it doesn't get the final say. You're still breathing. You're still here. That means the story isn't over. You haven't missed your moment. You've been moving toward it all along. Every no, every exit, every silence, every disappointment, it was fuel, it was direction, it was heaven saying, I've got you, trust me. If they didn't choose you, it's because God is choosing something better. If the plan fell apart, it's because God is putting together something eternal. If you're still standing after everything that tried to break you, that's not survival, that's strength, that's purpose. That's evidence that what's ahead of you is bigger than what's behind you. Don't chase the doors that closed. Don't mourn what didn't stay. Step boldly into what's next. Because when God redirects your path, he never leads you backward. He always leads you into becoming. You are not here by accident. You are here by his assignment. And no amount of rejection can cancel what heaven has declared over your life. This is not the end. This is the rising. This is the moment where you stop seeing rejection as your enemy and start recognizing it as your greatest guide. And when it's all said and done, the same people who overlooked you will have no choice but to look again, because your rise will be inignorable.